Interleague play in Major League Baseball refers to regular season baseball games played between an American League team and a National League team. Interleague play was first introduced in the 1997 Major League Baseball season. Prior to that, matchups between AL teams and NL teams only occurred during spring training, other exhibition games, and the World Series. Unlike modern interleague play, none of these contests, except for the World Series, counted toward official team or league records. History = Early discussions = Regular season interleague play was discussed for baseball's major leagues as early as the 1930s. In December 1956, Major League owners considered a proposal by Cleveland general manager and minority owner Hank Greenberg to implement limited interleague play beginning in 1958. Under Greenberg's proposal, each team would continue to play a 154-game season, with 126 within that team's league, and 28 against the 8 clubs in the other league. The interleague games would be played immediately following the All-Star Game. Notably, under Greenberg's proposal, all results would count in regular season game standings and league statistics. While this proposal was not adopted, the current system shares many elements. Bill Veeck predicted in 1963 that Major League Baseball would someday have interleague play. While the concept was again considered in the 1970s, it was not implemented until the 1990s, at least in part as an effort to renew the public's interest in MLB following the 1994 players' strike. Interleague play introduced MLB's first regular season interleague game took place on June 12, 1997, as the Texas Rangers hosted the San Francisco Giants at the ballpark in Arlington. There were 4 interleague games on the schedule that night, but the other 3 were played on the West Coast, so the Giants-Rangers matchup started a few hours earlier than the others. Texas' Darren Oliver threw the game's first pitch and San Francisco outfielder Glenallen Hill was the first designated hitter used in a regular season game by a National League team. San Francisco's Darrell Hamilton got the first base hit in interleague play, while Stan Javier hit the first home run, leading the Giants to a 4-3 victory over the Rangers. From 1997 to 2001, teams from the American League West played teams from the National League West, teams from the American League Central played teams from the National League Central, and so on, typically scheduled to alternate between home and away in consecutive years. However, in 2002, the league began alternating which divisions played which divisions, and thus in 2002 the American League East played the National League West, the American League Central played the National League East, and the American League West played the National League Central. Matchups which had been of particular interest prior to this format mainly geographic rivals were preserved. This is expected to be the continuing format of the interleague schedule. Corresponding divisions were skipped once when this rotation began, but were put back in the rotation in 2006. From 2002 to 2012, all interleague games were played prior to the All-Star Game. Most games were played in June and early July, although beginning in 2005, interleague games were played during one weekend in mid-May. The designated hitter rule is applied in the same manner as in the World Series. In an American League ballpark, both teams have the option to use a DH. In a National League ballpark, both teams' pitchers must bat. Some baseball observers feel it might be of better interest to reverse this. This would expose the fans of the home team to the other league's rules. Fans of AL teams could see the strategy involved in having the pitchers bat, while fans of NL teams could see career designated hitters such as Travis Hafner bat more than once a game in a pinch-hitting role. Teams from both leagues have both benefited and have been at a disadvantage when it comes to the DH rule in interleague play. For instance, Barry Bonds, who spent his entire career in the National League and actually won 8 Gold Gloves earlier in his career, was used strictly as a DH later in his career when the San Francisco Giants played away interleague games due to his poor fielding. Conversely, Boston Red Sox slugger David Ortiz, who to date has spent his entire career in the American League and is the Red Sox's regular DH, is forced to play first base when the Red Sox have away interleague games, forcing the Sox to give up good defensive fielding in favor of Ortiz's power hitting. After the 2010 Interleague play, the American League holds an all-time series advantage of 1,808 to 1,652 and has finished with a better record in Interleague play for 7 straight seasons, dating back to 2004. 2006 was the most lopsided season in Interleague history, with American League teams posting a 154-98 record against their National League counterparts. The team with the best all-time record in Interleague play is the New York Yankees of the AL at 144-102, followed by the Chicago White Sox at 143-104. The Miami Marlins holds the NL's best Interleague record at 127-107, followed by the St. Louis Cardinals at 109-96. In 2007, two teams the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Baltimore Orioles played 6 games with more than one Interleague opponent. The Dodgers played both the Toronto Blue Jays and the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, while the Orioles played both the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Washington Nationals. This happened again in 2012 as the New York Yankees played both the New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves for 6 games. The Miami Marlins also did this, playing both the Tampa Bay Rays and Boston Red Sox for 6 games each. The first civil rights game was an exhibition interleague game between the Cleveland Indians and St. Louis Cardinals in AutoZone Park on March 31, 2007. The first regular season civil rights game was an interleague game between the Chicago White Sox and Cincinnati Reds in Great American Ballpark on June 20, 2009. Since the introduction of interleague play, 2 teams have shifted leagues, the Milwaukee Brewers from the American League to the National League in 1998, and the Houston Astros from the National League to the American League in 2013. As a result, the 2013 Interleague series between the 2 teams made it the first time that 2 teams faced each other in an Interleague series after both teams previously faced each other in an Interleague series representing opposite leagues. The 2 teams met from September 1 to 3, 1997, then again from June 18 to 2013. In both instances, the series took place in Houston, with the team representing the American League winning 2-1. From 1998 to 2012, both teams were division opponents in the National League Central. Records. Wins by league winning PCT is with respect to the league that has the better record that season. 2015 record includes games completed on or before September 11, 2015. All-time interleague records by team interleague statistics The following is the text of Major League Baseball's policy regarding the compilation of statistics as a result of interleague play. For the first time in the history of Major League Baseball, interleague games are to be played during the regular season. Breaking tradition always brings about controversy, and the matter of baseball records is no exception. It is the opinion of Major League Baseball that there is no justification for compiling a new volume of records based on interleague play. On the contrary, the sovereignty of each league's records will be retained, and if a player or a team breaks a record against an interleague opponent, it will be considered a record in that league. In cases where 2 teams as interleague opponents break a league or major league record, that record will be annotated with the phrase interleague game. Streaks by both teams and individual will continue when playing interleague opponents in the same manner as if playing against an intra-league opponent. In essence, records will be defined by who made them rather than against whom they were made. The official statistics of both leagues will be kept separately as they have in the past. This means statistics for each team and their individual players will reflect their performance in games within the league and also in interleague games without differentiation. Interleague play leaders A list of leaders in the following categories is available on the MLB.com website. Batting average, hits, home runs, runs batted in, wins, ERA, saves, year-by-year stats. Geographical matchups/natural rivals. Certain interleague matchups are highly anticipated each year, due to the close geographic proximity of the teams involved. Many cities, metropolitan areas and states contain at least one team in each league. In each of these rivalry matchups, the 2 teams meet annually for 4 games, 2 in each ballpark. Prior to 2013, there were 6 games between the two teams, 3 per ballpark: Baltimore Orioles v. Washington Nationals, a Euro Beltway Series, Parkway Series or March Madness; Chicago Cubs v. Chicago White Sox, a Euro Windy City Series, Crosstown Classic or Red Line Series. The two teams played in the 1906 World Series. Cincinnati Reds v. Cleveland Indians, a Euro Ohio Cup; Detroit Tigers v. Pittsburgh Pirates, a Euro. While this series only became a rivalry because the other AL and NL Central teams were already paired up, it has become popular with fans of both teams, possibly due to the rivalry between the NHL's Detroit Red Wings and Pittsburgh Penguins. The two teams have several other connections as well. The Tigers' AA minor league affiliate, the Erie Seawolves, is located near Pittsburgh, is a former affiliate of the Buccos, and has retained the logo of a wolf wearing a pirate bandana and eye patch. Additionally, Jim Leyland, former manager of both the Pirates and the Tigers, remains popular in Pittsburgh, where he continues to reside. The two teams played in the 1909 World Series. Kansas City Royals v. St. Louis Cardinals, a Euro I-70 Series or Show Me Series, and named so because the cities of Kansas City and St. Louis are both in Missouri, and connected by Interstate 70. The two teams played in the 1985 World Series. Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim v. Los Angeles Dodgers, a Euro Freeway Series, Miami Marlins v. Tampa Bay Rays, a Euro Citra Series, Milwaukee Brewers v. Minnesota Twins, a Euro. The Twins and the Brewers were formerly regional rivals in the American League. The two metro areas are connected by Interstate 94. However, the term I-94 series is used almost exclusively to refer to the games played between the Milwaukee Brewers and the Chicago Cubs, and interleague contests with the also former rival Chicago White Sox. New York Mets v. New York Yankees, a Euro Subway Series. The two teams played in the 2000 World Series. Oakland Athletics v. San Francisco Giants, a Euro Bay Bridge Series or Battle of the Bay. The two teams played in the 1989 World Series as well as the 1905 World Series, 1911 World Series, and 1913 World Series when they were located in Philadelphia and New York, respectively. San Diego Padres v. Seattle Mariners, a Euro. The Padres and the Mariners share the Peoria Sports Complex during spring training. Fans of both teams have come to refer to the series as the Vedder Cup. Named in honor of Eddie Vedder, who has roots in both San Diego and Seattle but is a well-known Chicago Cubs fan, as a firmly tongue-in-cheek reference to the absurdity of MLB considering these teams natural rivals. In 2014, the 5 AL teams that qualified for the postseason all had geographical rivals among the 5 NL teams who qualified for the postseason. Split rivalries. 4 teams in the East and West form a split rivalry, where the rivalry pairings alternate in odd and even-numbered years. In the East, odd-numbered years, Boston Red Sox v. Philadelphia Phillies, Toronto Blue Jays v. Atlanta Braves. Even-numbered years, Boston Red Sox v. Atlanta Braves, Toronto Blue Jays v. Philadelphia Phillies. In the West, odd-numbered years, Houston Astros v. Colorado Rockies, Texas Rangers v. Arizona Diamondbacks. Even-numbered years, Houston Astros v. Arizona Diamondbacks, Texas Rangers v. Colorado Rockies. Former interleague rivalries. Baltimore Orioles v. Philadelphia Phillies ended in 2006, when the Washington Nationals replaced the Phillies as the Orioles' rival. Although the Nationals moved to Washington in 2005, the schedule for that season was already established, so the Washington-Baltimore rivalry series could not start until the next season. Houston Astros v. Texas Rangers ended in 2013, when the Astros moved to the American League West. The two teams now play each other 19 times a year as divisional rivals. Montreal Expos v. Toronto Blue Jays ended in 2005, when the Expos moved to Washington, D.C. The 2005 schedule was already set before the Expos left Montreal, so the Nationals played a series with the Blue Jays that season. Scheduling: in the American League, each team used to play 18 interleague games a year, but because the National League had 2 more teams than the American, only 4 NL teams would play a full 18-game interleague schedule, with the remaining 12 teams playing only 15. With the exception of the 2 NL teams playing each other, all teams were involved in interleague play at the same time, playing only interleague opponents until the interleague schedule was complete for the year. The schedule was later changed to occur only in June. In 2005, it was changed again to allow for more weekend interleague games, with each team playing one series during the third weekend in May and the rest in mid to late June. On April 1, 2013, for the first time in Major League Baseball history, an interleague game was played on opening day, between the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim and the Cincinnati Reds at Great American Ballpark, with the Angels claiming the distinction of winning that game 3-1 in 13 innings. The Reds, however, would win the next 2 contests by scores of 5-4. Also, on September 29, 2013, for the first time in Major League Baseball history, an interleague game was played on the last day of the regular season, between the Miami Marlins and the Detroit Tigers at Marlins Park. The Marlins not only claimed the distinction of winning that game 1-0 in walk-off fashion, but also saw their pitcher Henderson Alvarez pitch a no-hitter, marking just the 7th time a no-hitter was tossed in an interleague contest. With the win, the Marlins earned the sweep. As of 2012, every major league team has had at least one interleague series with each team in the opposing league. Additionally, every major league team has at least one victory with each team in the opposing league. The Pittsburgh Pirates' 5-0 victory over the Oakland Athletics on July 10, 2013 marked the first time the Pirates defeated the A's. Entering the game, A's-Pirates was the only interleague series that one team won every game. The only interleague matchup not to occur was the Toronto Blue Jays hosting the San Diego Padres, although the 2 teams have played in San Diego in 2004, 2010, and 2013. The Padres are scheduled to make their first ever trip to Toronto in July 2016. Effect of Astros joining AL on scheduling. In 2013, the Houston Astros joined the American League, giving each league 15 teams and thereby necessitating that interleague games be played throughout the season, including on opening day and during key division races all the way to the end of the season. This did not require expanding the total number of interleague games, because the probability of an interleague game during the Astros in the NL era was 252/2430 or about 1 in 9.6 games. With an odd number of teams in each league, one team in each league would be the odd man out, and have to play an interleague game to fill out the schedule, meaning as few as 1 in 15 games could be interleague. Despite this, there have been proposals to increase interleague play to 30 games. While the increase to 30 games is highly unlikely for the foreseeable future, a smaller increase took place immediately, having every team to play 20 interleague games. Since the 2013 season, the 20 interleague games are played in 8 series. Each team plays one 3-game series against 4 teams from one division in the other league, and 2 2-game series against the remaining team in that division. Since 2002, this has been on a rotating basis. The remaining 4 games are played against a team's natural rival in 2 back-to-back 2-game series. Should a team's natural rival be a member of the division they are scheduled to play as part of the yearly rotation, the team will play home and home 3-game series against the natural rival, home and home 2-game series against 2 other opponents, and single 3-game series against the last 2. For 2013, the natural rivalry games were played from May 27 to Euro 30. Teams played in one city on May 27 and 28, then traveled to the other city for games on May 29 and 30. For 2014, however, these natural rivalry games were spread out over the season, between early May and early August. Because of the requirement of near-daily interleague play spreading out interleague play throughout the year, not every team will be in interleague play on the same day. Most days, there will be either 1 or 3 interleague games as the average number of interleague games per day will be 1.68. 20 interleague games per team x 30 teams in MLB, / 179 total days in baseball season, / 2 teams per game. With 15 teams in each league, the number of interleague games is almost always odd, with exceptions based on when teams from each of the AL and NL have the same off day. Doubleheaders and make-up games also apply should a rainout or other extended delay requires a game to be postponed. Division rotation . Arguments: since its introduction, regular season interleague play has continued to be a source of controversy among baseball fans and others involved with the sport. Among the arguments used in favor of and in opposition to interleague play are the following. Pros: interleague match play increases attendance, however these numbers may be skewed, as interleague games are primarily played on weekends, when attendance is higher across the board, and in June, when school is not in session and temperatures are higher than some of the other months of the season. Season-long interleague play should remove the statistical issue of having every interleague game during months when school is not in session. Fans can see players they might not otherwise get to see, especially those who have only ever played in one league. Certain geographic rivalries are played out during the regular season that otherwise might not happen for years at a time. The Yankees now play 4 games against the Mets each season, whereas they would only have gone head-to-head in the 2000 World Series if not for interleague play. From 1962 until interleague play, the Mets and the Yankees played each other in a single game, the annual Mayor's Trophy game, which was an exhibition game even though it was played during the regular season. It creates matchups that might not have been seen in generations. For example, during the 2004 season, the Giants and Red Sox played each other for the first time since meeting in the 1912 World Series. The Red Sox had never played at Wrigley Field until 2005. In 2004, the Yankees and Dodgers met for the first time since the 1981 World Series at Dodger Stadium. In 2008, the New York Yankees visited the Pittsburgh Pirates for the first time since the 1960 World Series. In 2011, the Chicago Cubs traveled to Fenway Park for a series with the Boston Red Sox in what was the Cubs' first visit to the ballpark since the 1918 World Series. It allows for a rematch of the previous World Series. This has occurred in 10 of the 20 seasons of interleague play. In 2000, 2001, 2002, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2009, 2010, in 2014, and in 2016. It allows the relative strength of the two leagues to be measured against each other over 300 games per year, rather than just in the World Series once per year. Cons: there are many series that are not considered compelling. For example, series between currently poor-performing teams or teams with no historical or geographic connections, such as the rivalry series Padres vs Mariners. This also applies to the Rangers, Astros, Diamondbacks, and Rockies, who are forced to play the two teams from the other league on a rotating basis even though the Rangers and the Astros do not share any significant history or geographical proximity with the Rockies or the Diamondbacks. Most American League pitchers do not like taking batting practice for the opportunity to bat in 1 or 2 games. These pitchers are also unaccustomed to running the bases, which can lead to injury and premature fatigue. The World Series and All-Star Game are robbed of the mystique that used to result from the two leagues playing completely exclusive schedules during the regular season. In the case of the World Series, the best in the American League playing the best in the National League for the only time that season. More games against interleague opponents means fewer games against same league and division rivals, the latter of which may be more compelling. However, the leagues currently play an unbalanced schedule that favors divisional opponents rather than teams from other divisions. Now, each divisional opponent meets each other 19 times as opposed to 18 in previous years, and each natural rivalry sees only 4 games as opposed to 6 in previous years. Some have argued that the AL possesses an unfair advantage over the NL because of the designated hitter rule in the AL. When NL teams are on the road, they are forced to find a DH in place of their pitcher, who would normally bat ninth. Sometimes, the NL team will use one of their star hitters as the DH and use a bench player to fill in the appointed DH, and other times, the NL team will simply use a bench player as the DH and have him bat later. In either case, however, the benefits of using a DH in place of the pitcher are minimal, especially considering that the AL designated hitters have seen more action in their positions and that AL teams still possess their full nine-man batting lineup. Even when the NL team is hosting, arguments have been made that there is no real benefit for the NL team either. For the most part, designated hitters are also good fielders, meaning that they can still be used in the game. And although AL pitchers see less action than NL pitchers, stats have showed that AL pitcher batting average is not much lower than NL pitcher batting average, in large part due to the fact that several AL pitchers have played in the NL. For these reasons, some have argued that the NL should adopt the DH, while others have argued that the AL should drop the DH. These cons apply primarily to the 1997 Euro 2001 and or 2002 Euro 2012 formats and not necessarily to the current format. The rivalry series that consists of 6 games a year for some teams leads to further scheduling inequities. For example, the New York Yankees play the recently poor New York Mets 6 times a year, while their division rival Baltimore Orioles must play the recently strong Washington Nationals 6 times a year. Some teams play a certain opposite league team more than a certain same league team. For example, the San Diego Padres played the Seattle Mariners 6 times during the 2012 season. However, the Padres only played the Washington Nationals 5 times in the 2012 season. Most notably, teams no longer play identical opponents as their divisional rivals, and even where they do, they don't always play them an identical number of times. This can lead to strength of schedule disparities like those the NFL has to deal with on a yearly basis. For example, in any given season, one NL Central team might play every AL East team except the first-place team, while another NL Central team plays all but the last-place team. In the current format, these inequities are sharply reduced, since all teams within a division will have the same opponents from the rotating division each season, while the rivalry series is reduced to 4 games each season. See also: Major League Baseball rivalries, Baseball awards, list of Major League Baseball awards. References. External links, proposals for interleague play prior to 1997 at the Wayback Machine. For head-to-head listings, choose team and the time period to get full list and results.